Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Chrestman, and welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Today on the podcast, I wanted to talk about something that was in the news a week and a half ago at this point, but I thought it was important, and I wanted to discuss it, and that is Kevin McCarthy removing some Democratic members off of their committees in Congress. This is a very funny topic to me because the Democrats are incredibly upset about this. They're upset that Kevin McCarthy is doing this, but this is a problem of their own making, as it often is. And the idea that Kevin McCarthy would have done this a year ago if he was in control of Congress, it's just nonsensical. It's a non-starter. He would not have done this a year ago. But Democrats changed the rules. They laid the table, and now this is going to happen. And I'm going to explain exactly how that happened. 1 year ago, Nancy Pelosi, when she was still the leader of the House, she elected to break with almost 200 years of precedent and remove 2 Republicans from their committee assignments. Now, the way the process normally works is that Congress, both in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, every member of Congress is not involved in every aspect of everything that goes on in the government. There's entirely too much. You need people who specialize in certain things. So people get committee assignments, and some committees are very prestigious, and some committees are your backbenchers, where you put them. But these committee assignments are important because they are the people who are going to talk about certain topics. So whether you're on the Intelligence Committee, which is very prestigious, very high, big deal, high security kind of stuff, or the Commerce Committee, or whatever the committee may be, these are big deal assignments, and they're important. And the way that it normally works is that these committees are split down the middle. Democrats and Republicans, they both get assignments on the committees, and the way it typically works is that the Democrats nominate people for committees, and then they go on the committee, and the Republicans nominate people for committees, and they go on committees, and there's no process. Technically, the leader of Congress has oversight on these committees to pick and choose and do what they want with these committees. It has just been the way the government has worked for 200 years that we don't pick the opposite committee members. If I was a Democrat, I would not get to pick the Republicans I want on certain committees. The Republicans are responsible for picking the Republicans. That's their party. It's their job to put who they think is best forward on the committees. That's the way it normally works. It worked for 200 years. Nancy Pelosi broke from that. She chose last year to remove Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Paul Gosar of Arizona from their committees for their inflammatory posts and rhetoric on social media. Now, it is true that Marjorie Taylor Greene sometimes says some things that are relatively idiotic. I don't remember the exact tweet about the Jewish space lasers that she said, but it was a dumb thing to say. It was a dumb thing for any person in Congress to say. If I remember the context, it seemed pretty anti-Semitic at the time, and not a very bright post. Doesn't really reflect highly on her. Is it the kind of thing that should get someone removed from... Oh, hello, Winnie. Is it the kind of thing that should get somebody removed from a committee assignment in Congress? Well, the answer to that is no, because if the Democrats had any sort of standard, they would have removed certain of their members for their anti-Semitic comments at that time, but they didn't. They chose to target this Republican because they don't like her. Now, Paul Gosar put out a video. It's a dumb video. There's this show. Oh, what is it called? It's this animated show, or anime show. I think it's Attack on Titan. I think that's the show that it is. I've never watched it, but I think that's what it is. It's like the premise is there's people, and then there are some sort of giants that live outside that are trying to break into the Capitol buildings. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. Well, what he did was he tweeted this stupid video where someone made him, Paul Gosar, this representative, put him as the face of one of the hero people, and then put Joe Biden and AOC as these big, giant baby monsters, and Paul Gosar is running up and fighting them and kills both of them. And they said that this was so threatening. AOC's life was threatened by Paul Gosar because he killed her in this animated, stupid video that he put up, and they used this as a justification to remove him for his violent conduct. It was nonsense at the time. It's a stupid video, but it's nonsense to say that it's threatening. But Nancy Pelosi elected to use these things to remove those Republicans from their committees. So she set the precedent for this. And Republicans at the time told her that this was a bad idea because they said, well, hey, if we get back in power, don't expect that this is going to go one way, and just ignored it at the time. So this, by the way, her removing Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar from her committees came after she had already done something else that was not supposed to be what the leader of the House does, which is that when the January 6th committee was convened to look into the terrible tragedy that was January 6th, well, she rejected 2 of the 5 Republicans who were placed on that committee. She said, we're not going to have them. She didn't want, I can't remember who the other one was. Jim Jordan was one of them. I don't remember the second one off the top of my head, but she rejected both of them because she knew that Jim Jordan wasn't going to go with the narrative. So the Republicans pulled all 5 of their nominations to not give the Democrats any sort of bipartisan cover for that ridiculous January 6th committee. Now, Liz Cheney just decided to go along with it because I don't know why. I'm not going to pretend to know Liz Cheney's motivations, but she's not a Republican, and she's out of Congress now because of this. So, anyway, she did all this last year. Nancy Pelosi did all this last year. Now, they were warned. What goes around comes around. They were said that. And this is what she said at the time. This is actually a quote from Nancy Pelosi that I wrote down here. She said, quote, "No, we will not walk away from our responsibilities for fear of something they may do in the future." End quote. Okay, that's fine. You think it was so necessary to remove those people from the committees. Well, here's your comeuppance. This is the same thing that happened, by the way, years ago. It used to be that to get judges, federal judges, through the nomination process, you needed, I think it was a supermajority, but it might be 60 votes. I honestly can't remember now off the top of my head. But you used to need 60 or 66 votes, whatever it is. You used to need a supermajority in Congress to pass federal judges. So the president would nominate a judge, and you used to need 2/3 of Congress to approve this judge. The Democrats nuked that. They nuked it. They nuked the filibuster. They said, no, we're not going to do this, and they wanted to push through a bunch of judges. So they did. They nuked the option, and then they made it so that you just needed a simple majority so they could push their very radical judges. And the Republicans said, don't do this. It's a bad idea because we're going to do the same thing. And what happened, the second that the Republicans got back in charge, they began pushing a lot of judges, and the Democrats cried about, oh, my God, how could they do this? These people are so radical, this and that. And they said, well, you set the precedent. You did the thing. You got rid of the filibuster for judges, and the Republicans did it, and then the Democrats cried about it. This is the same situation. So the Republicans are in charge, and the Democrats are crying about these Democrats that Kevin McCarthy wants to remove from certain committees. Now, I want to play you. By the way, I have never had a strong opinion on Kevin McCarthy one way or the other. This video I'm about to play you makes me really like him. Listen to the way he deals with these reporters. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to play this whole video in its entirety because I thought it was very good, and Kevin McCarthy's response to this question was great. But listen to this real quick. I'm going to play the whole thing in its entirety.
Intel committee. Is Santos on the Intel committee? Am I allowing Schiff to be on other committees? Go right ahead.
Because you have direct power over who goes on the intelligence, you also will be able to raise for your full House, you're taking off other Democrats for House Representative Omar. But you said that lying to us is something that means you should be removed from the intelligence committee. But why is it not a factor?
Well, let me be very...
This is a man who should not be on committee, something you do have power over.
He's got elected by his district, so... Okay, let me be very clear and respectful to you. You ask me a question. When I answer it, it's the answer to your question. You don't get to determine whether I answer your question or not, okay? In all respect. Thank you. No, let's answer her question. You just raised a question. I'm going to be very clear with you. The Intel Committee is different. You know why? Because what happens in the Intel Committee, you don't know. What happens in the Intel Committee, although the secrets are going on in the world, other members of Congress don't know. What did Adam Schiff do as the chairman of the Intel Committee? What Adam Schiff did, use his power as a chairman and lie to the American public. Even the Inspector General said it. When Devin Nunes put out a memo, he said it was false. When we had a laptop, he used it before an election to read politics and say that it was false and said it was the Russians. When he knew different, when he knew the Intel, if you talk to John Radcliffe, DNI, he came out ahead of time and says there's no intel to prove that, and he used his position as chairman, knowing he has information the rest of America does not, and lied to the American public. When a whistleblower came forward, he said he did not know the individual, even though his staff had met with him and set it up. So no, he does not have a right to sit on that. But I will not be like Democrats and play politics with these, where they removed Republicans from committees and all committees. So yes, he can serve on a committee, but he will not serve on Intel because it goes to the national security of America. And I will always put them first, all right? And if you want to talk about Swalwell, let's talk about Swalwell, because you have not had the briefing that I had. I had the briefing and Nancy Pelosi had the briefing from the FBI. The FBI never came before this Congress to tell the leadership of this Congress that Eric Swalwell had a problem with a Chinese spy until he served on Intel. So it wasn't just us who were concerned about it. The FBI was concerned about putting a member of Congress on the Intel Committee that has the rights to see things that others don't because of his knowledge and relationship with a Chinese spy. They brought it to the works of the leaders. I've got that briefing. So I do not believe he should sit on that committee. And I believe there's 200 other Democrats that can serve on that committee. So this has nothing to do with Santos. Santos is not on the Intel Committee. But you know what? Those voters elected Schiff, even though he lied. Those voters elected Swalwell, even though he lied to the American public too. So you know what? I'll respect his voters too, and they'll serve on committees. But they will not serve on a place that has national security relevance because integrity matters to me. That's the answer to your question.
Wow. What an answer. That makes me a fan right there. That makes me a fan of Kevin McCarthy, the way he treats that question. So he was asked about George Santos. I don't want to talk about George Santos. I don't care about George Santos. George Santos seems like a liar and a con artist of a incredible magnitude, and he is going to be a one-term congressman and probably wind up in jail. So I don't care about Santos. But she said, why does George Santos get to serve on committees when you're going to take Schiff and Swalwell off of committees? And the answer to that question is obvious. Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell are a problem. They always have been a problem. There was no reason that Eric Swalwell should be sitting on the Intel Committee. That was clear for years. I've made videos about him and the Chinese spy a year ago, 2 years ago? I don't remember. A long time ago. And he should not have been on that committee at all. It's ridiculous. But listen to Kevin McCarthy's answer. He said, I'm not going to play politics. I'm not going to do exactly what Democrats did and say that they can't sit on committees. They just can't sit on this committee, this important committee. So he's actually doing something better than what Democrats did. The other person who was taken off of a committee was Ilhan Omar. In a really difficult contest to be the worst in Congress, Ilhan Omar runs away with it. It is a hard thing to do, to be the worst member of Congress, but Ilhan Omar is the worst member of Congress. There is no doubt in my mind about that. She is an anti-Semite. She does not like Jewish people. That is so clear, and does not appear to really like America that much at all. And the entire squad is full of relatively low IQ individuals that bring nothing of value. A bunch of bad ideas about politics, economics, and ignorance of history. But they are elected. They do get to serve. They get to do that, whatever. That's the way the system works. So the Democrats started it. Ilhan Omar, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, they're gone. They're off the committees. That's fine. Doesn't bother me at all. The Democrats want to play. I don't like it when Republicans do things that I find bad. I think that this is a bad thing to do. I think it's a bad use of power. However, I am not one of those people who say you should not hit back. You don't get to play the upright game and try and be the bigger man while the other people go low. You actually, that's not how, that whole idea that they go low so we go high. No. They go low. You're not going to hit them if you go high. You're going to miss. You're going to swing and miss. You got to go low to hit them. That's the way it works. So Democrats went low. You got to go low back. It's the only way people learn. People don't actually learn by you taking the moral high road. They take by you hitting them back. So if somebody's diving for your ankles, they're going low. You got to kick them low to get them. That's the way it works. The Democrats, of course, have taken this all, and with the grace and stoicism that the Democratic Party is known for, and if you don't believe me, I'll play you that video as well. Again, the grace and stoicism the Democratic Party is absolutely known for.
It's actually about I don't need
Gentlemen's time.
Don't tell me.
Democracy.
Louder and stronger.
Ilhan Omar, the House has voted to remove her from the Foreign Affairs Committee over anti-Semitic remarks.
Madam Speaker, this is a revenge resolution. A blatantly Islamophobic and racist attack on Congresswoman Omar.
This resolution lists many communist.
Let me pause that there for just one moment. I saw Cori Bush on there, and I know I just said Ilhan Omar runs away with it, but she better watch herself because Cori Bush could easily become the worst member of Congress. She is the worst. So I think maybe that's also because she's my congressperson that I feel that way, but also she just is terrible. She has nothing of value to say and might even be worse than Ilhan Omar in the way that she does it. So I got to defend Ilhan Omar there for just a second. She might not be the worst anymore, or at least she's got to fight to keep that title because Cori Bush is coming for her.
Dictators. But it doesn't list any of the capitalist dictators.
Being a smart, outspoken black woman of a Muslim faith is apparently the issue.
Weaponizing hate against a black, beautiful Muslim woman.
One of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America, and this is an extension of that legacy.
That joke right there reminds me of what AOC just said right there reminds me of that Norm Macdonald joke where he said that he always worried that there would be some gigantic radical Islamic terrorist attack that could kill thousands or millions of people and how bad that would be for Muslims. And it just went right over people's heads. He said, oh, my God, could you imagine if some Islamic terrorist got a dirty bomb and they set it off and they killed 1 million people? How bad would that be for Muslims? And people go, yeah. And he's like, no, you idiots. He's making fun of you because he's saying, no, the actual people are the victims of that. And it's exactly what AOC just said. The tragedy of 9/11 was actually how Islamophobic people got afterwards. Yeah, that's also not good, but it's not exactly the tragedy of 9/11.
That I treasure as an American Jew and that she treasures as an American member of the Islamic woman.
That atonement should be rewarded, not punished.
From Hitler to Mussolini to Franco to Salazar to Perón and so many more. Because tyranny,
The white supremacy happening is unbelievable.
Who rationalized insurrection.
Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks.
I support this. I oppose this resolution.
I am so sorry, sis, that our country is failing you today.
Representative Omar needs to remain and be productive on the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
Well, this is just a bunch of racist gaslighting. We all know it.
Everything is
Vote
racist,
no.
according.
Those in favor say no. It's the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it.
Thank you.
The grace and stoicism, what the Democrats are known for. This is hilarious. Anyway, any idea that this is some sort of motivated by racism is just absurd. It's just nonsensical. First of all, Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell are the whitest people you'll ever see in your life. And they also got removed from committees. But Ilhan Omar happens to be black. And so, therefore, it must be racist because she was removed from committees. And it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a really big Jew hater. Yeah, they're just ignoring that. Oh, my God, she's not anti-Semitic. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. You should have seen, there was at one, Adam Schiff, I wish I should have pulled this up. Adam Schiff sitting next to Ilhan Omar as they talked about her history of anti-Semitism. And she tried to pretend that she didn't know that it was anti-Semitic to insinuate that Jews like money. And Adam Schiff looks so uncomfortable because to sit up there as an adult, as a person who has lived your life for 30-something years, to say, well, I didn't know it was bad to say Jews like money. It's like, yeah, okay. You know that. You know that you're not telling the truth, right? Like, you know that. You have to know that. You can't be that dumb. It's just, I don't believe you. Anyway, we're going to leave it there for the day because I feel like we touched on what we wanted to touch on. We talked about how any outrage that people are expressing about this is nonsense. Where were they a year ago? All those Democrats who got up there and cried and screamed and yelled and said, oh, this is terrible. Where were you a year ago? You thought Marjorie Taylor's anti-Semitic comments were worse than Ilhan Omar's? That they necessitated her to be removed, but you think you're going to get up there and defend Ilhan Omar? Why? Because she's Muslim and then it's okay to say something? Because why? Because there happens to be an Israeli-Palestine conflict and that makes any anti-Semitism okay if you're a Muslim woman? No, that's not true. It's not good to hate anybody for any reason. It's not okay. Anyway, as always, questions, comments, concerns, life advice maybe. I'm happy to give it out. I'm not saying I'm doing a great job, but I'm happy to give you some life advice. If you want it, just throw it out there. But leave it all in the comments below. Like, share, review, do all the good stuff that you know what to do, all the people out there. But for that one, we're going to leave it there for the day. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.